let's have some fun collecting achievements. Why don't we go through the games, see what we can find? Drill Dozer. Perfect. This would be fun. Drill Dozer is a platformer developed by Gamefreak and published by Nintendo for the Gameboy Advance. It was directed by Ken Sugimori, who worked on many roles for Pokemon. He was a supervisor, game designer, advisor. He did a lot in Pokemon. And the game was released in Japan September 2005 and in North America in 2006. This is one of those interesting, rare experiments that Gamefreak did that was outside of the Pokemon franchise. Kind of one fun reason to check it out. See how Gamefreak would tackle a different genre other than creature capture RPG. When the game was released, it received generally positive reviews. It has roughly around a 4.5. Many fans enjoyed it. Highlights from many of those who played focus on character designs, level design, and some of the innovative controls. And I'll say, the character design are quite fun. I think when you see these characters, you will definitely remember them. The sad thing though is while this game came out, it had a lot of push by Nintendo, it didn't really sell very well. This probably has to do with the fact that it was released near the end of the Game Boy Advance's life. It was released in 2006, and by that point, it was 2 years into the DS life cycle, having been released in December 2004. A new IP on the end of a console's life, it was kind of destined to failure, sadly. One nice thing, though, is the game did receive a global release on the Wii U, and Jill, the protagonist, did have a cameo in Smash Bros. Brawl. She was one of the summonable characters that would run around the screen and help you fight. But besides that, not much else, which is again kind of sad. This game, it feels like it deserved a lot more, and when you play it, you can feel the passion behind the project. Many fans probably felt the same way, as over on RetroAchievements, this is a website which is dedicated to adding in achievement lists to old games. And doing a quick scroll through the list for Drill Dozer, the achievements are fairly straightforward. There's nothing that can be actively missed, there's nothing that seems time dependent. Just go in the game and play it to the fullest. I do see hard mode, so that'll be interesting. I didn't know this game had a hard mode. Let's replay Drill Dozer and collect some achievements. First, let's go over the controls. The controls are fairly simple. You have your movements with the D-pad, left, right. In some of the stages, you will have vertical and horizontal movement, so you'll be using up and down a bit. With the A button, and then the B button is simply having Jill poke her head out to look around. This kind of allows you to look a little bit beyond your current field of view, which is quite helpful, especially given that this is a platformer. And then finally, the drill. The drill is your primary attack, is your primary defense. The drill is the focus of this game. And the way you control it is by using the bumpers. The right shoulder button and the left shoulder button. The right shoulder button has the drill spin clockwise. The left button has it spin counterclockwise. This is quite important because rotation matters a lot in this game. You'll come across enemies which have to have a counterclockwise motion to defeat them. Or you might come across an obstacle which requires a clockwise motion to defeat them. It's nice that they color-coded it as blue and red. Red is clockwise, blue is counterclockwise. And that's about it for the controls. As I mentioned, quite simple. As an FYI, we're going to be going through the entire game, so this will contain lots of spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I would recommend skipping to near the end, where I start talking about the overall experience. We'll put a timestamp in so you'll know where. But for now, let's dive in and start playing. The story begins with the Red Dozer gang on the highway. They are promptly heading towards the Skulker gang hideouts, which happens to be a giant skyscraper in the center of the city. Apparently, the Skulkers stole the Red Diamond, an heirloom of Jill's. She's out to get it back. After entering the building through the wall, as opposed to the entrance, Jill soon finds herself trapped in a pitfall. Apparently, the Skulkers were anticipating something like this because the entire entrance is just one giant pitfall. At the bottom of the pit, Jill shakes some sense into herself and proceeds to start to navigate out. Here we learn from Guillermo and Glutch how to control the dozer, which I kind of explained earlier, so let's just kind of speed on ahead. As we go through, destroying walls and everything in sight, eventually we hit a second gear. This allows us to upgrade the power of our gear, allowing us to destroy things more efficiently, hence being able to go through the first barrier. As Jill continues to proceed, we fight enemy rush, a bunch of enemies coming in to attack us at once, continue platforming up through the depths, and eventually we'll come across the third gear. With this gear, it allows us to fully spin the drill non-stop, allowing us to destroy everything. If there's a health bar, we can continue attacking it forever, which is very nice. But from here, we can then just navigate our way up through the elevator, and we've made it out of the pits. Yeah, we're even at the entrance as well. There's a block here we can't destroy. That means we'll have to upgrade at some point. But nonetheless, we head to the right, we encounter the first boss, which happens to be an angry dude in a tank. It's very easy to take him down though. All of the points for attacking are easily flagged, so once he shoots out his missiles, the hole where the missile came from is very exposed. We stick our drill in it and proceed to just destroy the tank. Eventually, all of the health is gone, and we've defeated the first boss. Very easy. We continue going right, we eventually find a crank that allows us to open the door, and then we close the door again to kind of just show off the difference between clockwise and counterclockwise drilling, and we're done with the stage. We've unlocked an achievement? Nice. And we get a little bit more background to further explain how the Skulkers stole the gem. Apparently they jumped Jill's dad one day while he was heading back home and beat him up pretty badly. This is kind of why Jill's in the front lines, trying to get it back. With the story done and saves completed, we send Jill back out into the backlot of the Skulkers hideout. And once we're out in the second stage, we see Jill is back to one gear. Pretty much, we can now tell what the rest of the game is going to be like. You enter a stage, you fight all the enemies, you collect gears and money, or in this case chips, and then you fight a boss and repeat. The game does have treasures hidden around the stage, but these are optional and only play a role in completion. So as we are working through to complete this game, we'll have to eventually collect all of the treasures, even if it means replaying the same level again and again. And because we found that unbreakable block earlier, odds are we'll have to level up a lot first, and then go back and replay. It is what it is. This is what Gamefreak chose for extending the gameplay, I guess. But either way, now that we're in the backlot, Jill proceeds to continue heading right, and fighting off the Skulkers gang. In the second stage, we end up finding the second gear quite early, and we find one of the optional treasures. If you look, you can see, to get this treasure, we'll have to use the bouncy block that they just introduced not but a little bit earlier. Stick your drill in the block, you then quickly reverse your drill, and you'll fly back. As you increase your gear level, you'll fly further back. In the case of getting the treasure, we need a gear level of 2. And I don't know why. I had so much difficulty getting this first one. I think it's because I forgot most of the muscle memory. Eventually I succeeded, but boy does it make me think I need to spruce up on my memories of this game. But with the treasure finally collected, we then proceed to continue heading up, destroying as many walls and floors as possible. I swear, how is this building standing with the amount of destruction we do? Man, if we do not have a building collapsing by the end of this game, I'm going to be disappointed. As we continue progressing, flipping some switches here, platforming there, we eventually find ourselves fighting 2 of the boss in the first stage. This was quite of a fun fight, because the boss changed up his attack pattern a little bit. Usually he's sending out 2 missiles, but this time instead he's shooting out 1, which allows us to kind of play hopscotch, jumping between the 2 different tanks. Once you figure it out, you always feel like a badass, just like, oh, I can defeat these guys without ever touching the ground. It feels quite good. I didn't do it this first time, but in subsequent replays, I made sure to never touch the ground. But with these 2 defeated, and a giant hole in the wall, we navigate our way up to that hole and continue heading up the building. Eventually we find ourselves in office space. Oh, lots of stuff. Let's destroy it all. Just plow right through, destroying every single thing in this office. Eventually, we find ourselves in the CEO room. Here we end up finding the big boss, the big bad guy of the game, the dreaded Krug. He's the leader of the Skulkers gang. I like the helmet that he's wearing. I think it's a helmet. His name doesn't really scream bad guy. It might be because it has a G at the end. The Oog. Or is it Krug? Either way, Krug is not playing ball. Jill demands the red gem back. He says no and proceeds to nope out of the office. Jill has to chase after him, going to the roof, where a giant scorpion bot is waiting. Apparently, Krug has iron-level funding at his hands because he can build so many things and just watch it all get burned down, and he still builds more. But with the fight of the scorpion, it's actually pretty easy. We take down Krug's scorpion tank by clashing the drills, making sure to knock it out of the way. After we defeat stage 1, it quickly rushes us into stage 2, where we have to play dodge the bombs, and the robot gets a nice big mouthful of drill. Finally, with both stages defeated, Krug decides to nope out of there with the gem, leaving us having to play chase. Hey, we got another achievement. Nice. But yeah, with Krug gone, Jill and the gang start trying to find out where to go next. Rumor has it that there's a gem in the art museum. Apparently, that might be where the Skulker gang is located. With this knowledge in mind, the gang head off to the art museum. I have a feeling because of what happened in the Skulker's tower, Jill doesn't want to go back through the entrance. So instead, she launches herself onto the roof of the art museum. Maybe she was tired of dropping down giant... Never mind. She goes through the skylight and falls right into the entrance. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Now that we're here, we have to proceed to navigate through the museum and find the gears. We first go left to see if we can start finding anything, and start destroying every sculpture we can find. Man, there's so much sculpture smashing here. No wonder why we're seeing police officers around here trying to arrest us. Jill, you're destroying their art. In this one, we have drill tunnels. These tunnels are navigated by spinning the drill. And boy, do you go slow through this with the first gear. Once you have all 3 gears, you can just fly right through. But for now, we have the first gear, and it's a bit of a slog. But eventually, Jill finds herself on the roof again, of all places. Jill jumps and dodges and navigates through the stage, fighting every enemy she can find. There are many cops, and eventually going deep enough, she enters behind what appears to be a curtain on a stage. The curtain rises, and it is a standard enemy. Oh, it's fine. Easy to take. 2 more enemies. And 2 more enemies. And the annoying Robohound. So it's kind of like a controlled gauntlet here. Oh, finally, the boss. A rather fun one at that. Pretty much. You have to have him shadowbox to expose his privates enough times for you to just make him fall apart. With him finally being taken down, the stage opens up, leading us to a massive safe. It is huge and very secure. It has 3 locks. It looks like the next step is to crack open the safe. But first a pit stop, and another achievement unlock. Nice. With saving out of the way, Jill re-enters the museum backlot, ready to wander around and locate the cranks to unlock the security locks. Pretty much in this stage, it's more of the same as the first. This time though, the drill tunnels are a lot more prevalent. So have fun with all of that wishing for the 3rd gear. I definitely wanted it then. Tunnel here, platforming, more tunnels, and more tunnels. Eventually Jill finds the first crank for unlocking the safe. And with a brief sleuthing of the area, the first lock is unlocked. Next is off to find the second one. After more tunnels and enemy rushes, Jill finds herself out back, meeting the boss of the stage, Carrie Castor. Carrie is the lead detective, out to stop the gangs from causing chaos in the city. Though she seems more interested in diamonds for her first appearance, as opposed to, rampant sculpture destruction. Kind of alludes to something going on with the gems. But either way, Carrie had a rather smart idea to take out the dozer with an EMP. Too bad for her that the fountain has enough pressure to not only take the bombs out, but to hold the dozer up afterwards. That is some serious water pressure. From here, we continue through the stage, collecting the 3rd gear finally, and locating the other 2 locks. And be sure to enjoy the drilling tunnels, as we have enemies that chase us through them now. And a crab boss. Drill tunnel, some platforming. We found the treasure. Nice. Another drill tunnel. There's a lot of drill tunnels. But finally, we get to the last lock. Open it up, and we can enter the safe. With the giant safe open and entered, what we find is a lot of gold. No red gem though. There's a gold gem here in place. Hey Carrie, why are you hiding here? She's hiding, waiting to ambush, when earlier she was just, how did she get in here? Anyway, it's very interesting that she has a giant police robot in there just waiting for the ambush. All the while coveting the gold gem. Apparently, our suspicions were correct. The gems have some weird power over whoever has them, making them kinda crazy. Either way, it's time to take down Carrie. A battle ensues between us two where Carrie keeps throwing the largest handcuffs I've ever seen, and Jill promptly dodges, waiting for the robot's abs to be exposed. Apparently the robot hasn't been working on core. After multiple drills, tearing the robot in half, the second phase of the boss fight commences. This time, Jill has to attack the hole under the robot. This results in you just having to wait for Carrie to try and squish you, and you have an opening to the weak spots. With the final drilling commencing, causing the robot to explode, we find Carrie defeated on the ground. The gold gem is ours. Here, she's actually speaking a lot more sense, giving off that vibe of, oi, bring that back. But with the gold gem in hand, and another achievement unlocked, alright, it's now time to find the next location. And Guillermo ends up highlighting that in the museum, they were talking about the 5 diamonds, and this might be the diamonds that they're talking about. Guillermo mentions that the blue one was discovered in the Kuru ruins, so now we know where to go. And here, nicely, we can now start buying upgrades from this guy who kind of shows up. So the chips are not just useless, but for now, with a fresh health upgrade, another achievement attained, odds are he's going to give you the drill bits, and I don't know what the other ones are yet. We'll have to see what they are. And then we're off to the ruins. I feel the ruins had a lot of very fun level-centric obstacles. They have a couple different enemies which are foils to the drill. The ghost is an enemy where if you're drilling, it actively attacks you, preventing you from drilling in certain times. And then there are also enemies that, if you attack them, they result in dispersing a mist, which requires you to kind of platform and navigate how you're going to deal with them without being knocked around. And then there's lots of Indiana Jones inspirations here, which is quite fun to see. We even get an introduction into one of the core mechanics of the Drill Dozer, where by spinning the gears fast enough, you can have Jill thrust forward to essentially platform over pits just by constantly grabbing the next drillable item. It's quite fun. So after nearly being skewered twice, and avoiding the giant boulders again, Jill eventually finds herself next to a giant, decrepit ruin. To the crew's shock, a ghost-like orb flies in on screen, turning this ruin into a giant boss, ready to squish Jill. The way to defeat this boss is pretty simple. You wait till you can grab onto his arm, fly up into the air, and then proceed to land on top of the blue orb and drill it. However, for some reason, I had a brain lapse while playing this. I completely forgot what was supposed to happen. I just spent minutes drilling the ball and chain, thinking, what was I supposed to do again? It was only after I lost and restarted the fight and actually reread, like, oh yeah, I should be attacking the mysterious blue orb, which is actually very obvious if you look at the design of the boss. But either way, with a couple times of arm wrestling, being flung in the air, and hitting on point, we're able to drill through and beat the boss. With the boss defeated, the gem flies away, allowing us to unlock another achievement. Nice. For the Ruins Part 2, it's actually radically different from the first section. In this one, we are introduced to the water mechanics, which only show up in this stage, so it is a stage-centric obstacle. There are 2 of these stage-centric mechanics in this game, which is a bit surprising. I thought that these would show up a lot more frequently, but they don't. And this kind of highlights some of the problems with the controls. We'll go over it when we get there. Jill goes through the door, we have an enemy rush, more drilling, and then we come across a mini-boss. These 2 old grandma treasure hunters who are out to look for the blue diamond. They're just kind of wandering about and decide to start picking on us for some reason. Either way, we take them out by reversing their engines, and we manage to get hold of a propeller, allowing Jill to swim. Alright, so as I mentioned, this is a water level. This is not the best controls out there. See, Jill has the ability to move in all 4 directions while she's underwater. She can move upward, downward, left, right, but is all focused when the drill is moving. So if you're not spinning the drill, you're not moving forward. And since we haven't gotten the gears yet, it's going to be a lot of 1 gear movement until we can get the other levels. Now, one of the big problems with this is that Jill constantly is sinking. So when you're not spinning the drill, you're sinking down. And when you're trying to line up Jill in order to get her through a hole or trying to line her up to avoid an enemy, it becomes very frustrating because you're constantly fighting this downward movement, all the while trying to stabilize her long enough to go the direction you want. And it's just, if they would have had it so Jill stayed in the position that she was supposed to, I feel like it would have made things so much better than this. It's not so aggravating that you want to just stop playing, but the mechanics could have been a little bit better. Either way, we navigate through the water maze, occasionally hopping out to retrieve treasure or to platform. We fight an angry Starmie here and there, lots of flowing water mechanics to push us around, and eventually we find the ghost orb. This orb turns into a school of zombie fish, which was a bit surprising because I was kind of expecting the old ladies to be the boss. But zombie fish it is. And this is a very weird fight. Pretty much what you have to do is you have to avoid the charge shots, and then you have to hit the rocks back into the fish. As you hit the rocks into him, eventually he'll charge you and split apart, in which case you'll then have to dodge the onslaught of fishies and then damage the blue orb. Do this enough times, and the orb will shatter, giving us the blue gem. So the thing about this boss is it can be either super easy or super difficult. Gamefreak implemented a little bit of randomness. This means that sometimes enemies will attack in different directions, sometimes enemies will attack with a different move. It's all random. And while that's not really a bad thing, what it can do is it can result in, like the fish, our boss here, shooting nothing but energy orbs for God knows how long, or never shooting one and proceeding to just shoot nothing but rocks. And this is very important later when we get to it. But for now, with the orb collected and another achievement unlocked, nice, we now have 3 gems in hand. Still not the red diamond, but we're getting there. And the Skulkers gang and the police are not really too happy with this. They feel like it's high time to take down the Red Dozer gang. Their plan is to lure Jill into the center of the city with the red gem. Poor Carrie, you can see her just standing there in the back, agitated, like why are the police and the Skulkers, a criminal gang mind you, working together? She's not going to go against the higher-ups though, so she's just kind of stuck playing along. However, because Jill wants to recover her mother's heirloom, she's unperturbed and she dives straight in, even though it might be a trap. We already know it's a trap, but she dives straight in anyway. Now in this stage, Jill starts traversing the city. And in this, we have an introduction of even more mechanics. We have timed blocks where they will disappear and then reappear after a certain amount of time. Drill launchers where when you spin it and then reverse spin, you get launched high into the air. And then these threaded bolts. They pretty much act like gates. You have to unthread them in order to open up a space to get through. This stage, it was a lot of fun with these new mechanics, especially the time blocks. They ended up making it out so that you have to think about when to drill and when to platform, timing everything out. It's quite fun. And the drill launchers, they provide a means of having a quick vertical movement, which is kind of needed sometimes because vertical platforming can be quite a pain. So yeah, I like these mechanics. Now what I don't like is that this was such a long stage. Oh, this has to be the longest stage out of the bunch in this game. I swear, just by... let's go through it and you'll see what I mean. We start off in the outer city. From here we have to use the timed blocks, the drill launchers, navigate through the threaded bolts, all the while avoiding multiple enemy rushes and new enemies. Eventually, as we progress through the buildings and through the scaffolding, we find ourselves at a drill tunnel. The drill tunnel leads us down and down into a train. Now this train, this train is just one pure gauntlet. You have to avoid all of the signs while attacking every policeman that shows up. You then have to drill through tons of signs, making sure not to get hit. Once you make through that, you then have more enemies to fight and more signs to dodge. And then finally you think you're near the end, you have to fight this enemy that homes on you. And you have to dodge this guy while defeating all the police to eventually finally get to the end of the train. I am so glad that I had lots of health during this, especially for my first run, because there was the timing of the enemies, the direction of the enemies. Remember, there's randomness here. All of this can lead to you just being hit over and over and over. And boy, that is not fun. That is not fun at all. Eventually, once we make it to the end of the train stops, leading us to another drill tunnel, and we find ourselves in the inner part of the city. Here we fight more enemies, more platforming, and a yo-yo boss. More enemies, more platforming. Eventually though, after that crazy gauntlet of a stage, Jill finds herself in the city stadium with a red gem in grasp. Or so we thought, as it's actually a hologram. Surprise, mad scientist is baiting us. It's actually a trap, and Carrie jumps out with her Police Robo Mark II, ready to launch grenades at Jill. Man, poor Jill. Every attempt at arresting her requires some form of explosive. This boss fight with Carrie is quite different from the first battle. This time, instead of dodging handcuffs, Jill has to reverse the flight path of grenades, making sure they detonate right at the time that they fly back to Carrie. Think of hot potato, but with a bomb. Each successful returns opens up Carrie's weakness, which are those squishy abs again, and after drilling enough times, Carrie's robot will split in two. However, this time, we still continue playing hot potato, but once we manage to launch it back, angering Carrie enough, she'll try to squish us, in which case we then drill the hole in the bottom. This boss requires a lot of focus. You have counterclockwise bombs, and you have clockwise bombs, so you're going to be switching between left shoulder and right shoulder a lot in this fight. But eventually we take Carrie down. And a massive big explosion. And with that, the stage is cleared. Achievement is unlocked, and we have to start going after the scientist now to recollect the diamond. First though, since we have enough bits, let's start upgrading the drill for an achievement. This will allow us to open up new routes potentially, and yeah, okay, that's about it though. You would think that upgrading the drill would help out a lot, but it ultimately doesn't, because you actually need the second upgrade in order to start treasure hunting. Let's continue with the story. Jill heads off through the city, chase down the mad scientist. Apparently, he ran to the top of a skyscraper, requiring Jill to find a way to go up. Thankfully, the Granny sisters show up, ready to agitate Jill again, for some reason. Hi, Grannies. Either way, we avoid their bombs, take them out, and we are gifted the Fly Drill. This will allow Jill to proceed to drill to fly up. And yeah, that kinda sucks too. It's a little bit better though, because you only have to worry about flying up to progress, as opposed to in the water stage where you have to worry about going in all four directions. But boy, is this agitating before you get the third gear. Once you get the third gear, you can start kind of maneuvering a bit better, but man, that first little bit, boy. And one of the biggest problems in this stage is that every time Jill gets hit, she stops drilling. So you have to very precisely avoid everything in order to not fall all the way down again. You don't have to worry about falling to a different stage. There's no reverse progression here, but it's still a bit agitating when you're trying to go up and then you get hit and you fall. So you have to restart the drill to go back up, to get hit again, and then fall again. It's just a bit of a pain. I'm glad that I put in the money to get the extra health. It would be a nightmare if I had to do this without health, or without the safety net of a health bar. Eventually, we make it through to the top, where we find the mad scientist feeding the red diamond to a satellite called the Drizzler. With the power of the red diamond, the driller goes mad and starts attacking Jill by tossing out a spike maze. Again, thank sensible game design for providing a health bar, because this boss is very unforgiving. It's blocking your field of view so you don't know exactly where you are, and Jill is constantly being tossed left and right, how close you are to the spikes. There are moments where there are lasers coming out everywhere attacking you, and because of the fact that if you get hit or if you let go of the drill, you have to start it back up, and so there's this long start process. You're either going to be fighting this for an extra long time, or you're just going to be getting hit constantly. Cheap shot here, cheap shot there. Man. But with enough perseverance, you can defeat this boss. And with him defeated, you get thrust into another phase. Man, a lot of these multi-phase bosses, huh? Either way, this is a lot more of a conventional fight. In this one, you just have to avoid getting hit by the rocks that are being flown around and avoid the giant laser beam. Once the Drizzler stops shooting its laser, you then hit the eye. You do that enough times and the Drizzler explodes in a fiery ball of fury. Alright, Jill. And with that note, we have successfully recovered the red gem. Nice. With the red gem collected, Jill proceeds to head back. However, instead of hopping on the Red Dozer Gang's truck, she ends up hopping onto the police one. Which, wow, it was pretty obvious when I saw it. Jill, you're not paying attention. Maybe she's too happy to have collected the gem. I mean, we did go through many stages to get it. Alright, even though Jill is caught, at least we can save, watch the achievement get unlocked. Alright, nice. And continue on. Now, I was planning to head into the next stage to continue with the story, but I ended up seeing an item in the shop. It was called the Hideout Map, and I thought, oh, I have enough bits. Why not buy it? I will have to say, this was a very bad decision, and we'll get to that in a bit. So, even though Jill is captured, instead we're just gonna go head out and check out this hidden stage. Now, these hidden levels should be considered extra hard levels. They try to take advantage of the full mechanics of the stage, and they expect you to be very good at the game to complete them. Challenge modes, there you go, that's what I was thinking of. And for the most part, they're quite fun. Until they're not, we'll get into that. But for this stage here, in the hideout, there's a lot of platforming, there's a lot of trying to figure out the timing. It was a lot of falling to your doom, but it is doable, and eventually once you get the hang of things, it's actually quite fun testing yourself to try and get through there. It definitely helped me learn a lot about timing and how to kind of know when to release the drill or timing. It's very important. But with that completed and treasures collected, we then proceed to continue on with the story. Here we find Jill trapped in prison, separated from her dozer and the police chief writing up a rather dubious crime sheet. Dodging paying receipts from a restaurant, even Carrie here thinks he's nuts. But with all criticisms being rejected by the chief, he just continues building a rap sheet for Jill. That is one corrupt system. Here I was actually wondering what would happen. I thought maybe because of what was going on, Carrie would release Jill and then you'd have to run around as Jill to help her escape. Or maybe Guillermo might decide to hop in on the action. But no, surprisingly what happens is the Drill Dozer just wakes up on its own and proceeds to start looking around for its owner. I kind of love the idea that we, the player, are actually playing as the Dozer and just aiding Jill in her adventure. It makes it feel like we are our own agent in the story, apart from the characters. Alone, we can perform tasks like drill, jump, and jump off, but it's through this collaboration with Jill that our full potential is unlocked, and that we're able to perform great feats. It's not just us controlling things, but we're actually a participant within the story. It might be reading deep into a rather innocuous game mechanic variation, but it's fun to think about these things, as it helps flesh out the world and the characters a bit. It's nice. But with our dozer, we navigate down to the prison cells, eventually finding Jill in her cell. Here it is revealed that the red gem was giving power to the dozer, allowing it to move on its own. And Jill's mother's spirit is being held within the red diamond. I wonder how this affects my previous brainstorming. Either way, the dozer and Jill are reunited, and we can now progress through the stage, fighting the skulkers pretending to be guards, and platforming like we were in, the second stage. Eventually, we come across a flyy Skulker Gang member who is holding a poisonous bullet gun, requiring us to constantly be defending while trying to avoid him. Whew, close shot there. After some more platforming, an enemy rush, and some annoying enemies, eventually we find ourselves at an impasse. We can continue heading up, or we can go out through the door. Going out through the door leads us to a fight with the police chief's security. This happens to be a bunch of bombs just dropping everywhere, and we have to defuse them by unscrewing them clockwise or counterclockwise. Heading up, though, we end up going up to where the chief is located, potentially being able to take him on if he was there. However, there is treasure, which is nice. It's hidden behind the door. Collect the treasure when we find a rather sad display of the chief desiring wealth, having painted riches all over the wall. Man, not even the police chief here is able to make a decent wage. But from here, we head back down, go through the exits, and make our way to the prison grounds. From here, we have to dodge a lot of blockades, eventually finding the exit door. We're almost there. We just can't get through until we're greeted by Carrie. Carrie is not happy with Jill trying to escape justice, but she's also acknowledges that there's something screwy going on with the chief, given the fact that the Skulker Gang is running the prison. She decides to kind of just turn the other cheek. If Jill managed to escape, she wasn't looking, And with that, Jill has managed to escape prison. But this ends up just leading to the chief, who manages to convert the prison through the power of Gem into a giant robot. Man, this dozer is taking out a massive robot. That is nuts. So from here, we now have to proceed to defeat the giant robot. This is a very fun boss fight. It combines a puzzle-like element with the drill tunnels and you navigating through the robot, having to disable the weapon systems. After the initial onslaught, the robot will attack Jill, and by drilling up, you can open up a pathway into the bot. Once you're inside, you then have options. You can go up or you can go right. If you go up and destroy that part, you'll disable the missiles. If you go right, you'll disable the lasers. This means, depending on which order you choose, affect what the second part of the fight will be like. Personally, I like to get rid of the missiles because dodging the lasers is just a little bit easier than trying to avoid a bunch of homing missiles. Then after you dodge enough and re-enter the robot, you then deactivate the second system, resulting in the robot having neither lasers or missiles. From here, they get their Tekken on and start just punching you in all different angles. For Jill, she does her best Evo Moment 37 impression to parry all of the different attacks before being allowed to enter one last time and go through the bottom route, in this case allowing us to fully destroy the engine of the robot. And with that being done, the giant robot is defeated and we have collected the green gem. Alright. With this, our gang picks us up and we're on our way. Hey, Carrie! She's now hanging out with us. Now with 4 gems in hand, Krug is not too happy. He tried to have her arrested, he tried to beat her up, he's had enough. And what he decides is the best course of action? He retaliates by launching a giant red missile into the Red Dozer base. The big question I have is where was he hiding this thing? It is a massive missile. How did he get this under the city? For the next stage, Jill has to traverse down through the missile to try and stop it from reaching her dad, who is at the bottom of the base. If she fails, everything's gonna go boom. Now this stage, we are introduced to the pink and cyan balls, basically indestructible hitboxes that hurt Jill whenever she touches them. Thus, you need to avoid them at all times. Jill continues through the missile, digging closer and closer to its head, trying to stop it in its track. She goes down through multiple different sections with these neon-colored balls, a section full of drill tunnels, and then a third section with tons of hidden explosives. Eventually, she finds herself at the tip and actively reverses the spin to stop the missile from digging deeper. Hooray! We stopped the explosion! Oh no, it is now exploding! Jill now has to make a hasty retreat in order to escape from the said explosion. This section is rather intense, with Jill constantly being chased by said explosion, with just a hair difference between life and death, all leading to Jill trying to stabilize the coolant to extinguish the explosion. And in just in the nick of time, the missile is successfully reversed and returned to sender, blowing up Krug's skyscraper. Ha, take that, Krug. And much like a spoiled brat, he tries to Uno reverse our Uno reverse by playing the card of a massive hidden tank super weapon designed to destroy the city. Now seriously, a missile and now a tank. How did he manage to build these without people noticing? Maybe it has to do with the gems. The green gem corrupted the police chief, the yellow one made Carrie gold crazy for a while. Maybe secretly Krug was passing the gems around to like the mayor and the board of development to try and hide his illegal building practices. With that in mind, another achievement is down. Either way, it's time to enter the next stage, and by next stage, I mean try out another secret stage to collect more bits. I kinda depleted my bits wanting to unlock more health bars, and yeah, that was probably a bad idea. But either way, we go through this next secret stage, which is navigating through the art museum, this time perfecting our ability to bounce. There's so much bouncing in this stage. The yellow bouncy blocks are everywhere, and they're positioned in a way that you have to uncover the proper timing and when and where to drill. It is quite fun navigating through until you get near the end. There's this one really annoying bit where you have to maneuver Jill between 3 drill grabbers. All the while, there are just spikes down below constantly nipping at your health. If you fail to miss a grab, you fall into the spikes. If you try to launch yourself, you fall into the spikes. You have to drill, stop drilling, then you have to launch yourself. It is just not impossible, but very aggravating. But either way, we've completed that, collected the treasure. But either way, with some dedication, it's not impossible. With a lot of dedication and patience, eventually we cleared the obstacle, collected the treasure, and another achievement was crossed out. Nice. From here, now it's time to deal with the dreaded Doom Dozer. With a brief cinematic showing Carrie trying to get close, and the Red Dozer gang lining up for the assault, Jill launches herself onto the Doom Dozer, leaving the Red Dozer gang trailer being squished after the launch. Radio silence is observed as Jill rushes across the Doom Dozer to stop it, all the while dodging missiles, fighting many enemy rushes, and performing the usual platforming stunts. I wonder if the game is really going to stick with how the plot is progressing. Given that it's Gamefreak, we kinda know how it's going to turn out. Let's suspend our disbelief for a bit. So as Jill progresses through the stage, collecting all the gears relatively early, this leads to most of the platforming being combat focused, as well as performing timed jumps, which is quite fun. Eventually, Jill makes it to the center pillar of the Doom Dozer, with just one option. She drills through the entire structure. Very cathartic, especially since stage 1. I was hoping to topple a building by drilling through it, and here we are. The Doom Dozer is going down. With many explosions aplenty, Jill successfully stopped the Doom Dozer, but at the cost of her Drill Dozer fully malfunctioning, losing all of the gears. With nothing left, Krug attacks Jill, ready to defeat the Red Dozer gang once and for all, and to prove that the Skulkers are the best. However, Jill is not going to go down without a fight. With one sucker punch to the face, count it, one sucker punch, she knocks the control of the black gem out of Krug, causing it to break and leave Krug running away crying. That is one hell of a punch. Hey, Guillermo and Grutch are alright. It's a good thing I suspended my disbelief. I didn't know if they would survive. But with Jill reuniting with Guillermo, Carrie, and Grutch, they divide the gems up to their respective owners. The yellow gem is going back to the museum with Carrie, the red gem is staying with Jill, and the blue and green diamond are stolen by the twin grandma thieves, leaving Carrie in pursuit. Kinda surprised that those grandmas are still kicking it. From here, we cut back to Drill Dozer base with her dad fully recovered, and Jill and the gang heading out to rebuild the Red Dozer gang, leaving on a note of Jill's mother wishing them all well. Overall, the ending is a bit quick, but it's fun and nice. It's a fun credit sequence at the end also, where you get to see all the characters messing about. Oh, there's the unlock. Right after the credits. I was wondering where it went. With the game complete now, it is time to buy the remaining items in the shop and unlock more of the secrets. First, we need to get the Mega 800 bits. That is a lot. 800. See, I told you that it was a very bad idea to buy the other stuff first. 800 bits. Yeah, if you're going to go through for the achievements, you definitely want to be frugal here, because otherwise you're going to be putting in a lot of time to just unlock this megabit. So with that in mind, let's just see how are our percentage doing for the achievements. We beat the entire game, 7 hours worth, and we're at 26%. 26% after all the drilling, the enemy fighting. Oh, when looking to master this game, I thought about going through this game as I had many fond memories of playing it. And for what we have been going through, you can see why. The characters are fun. The gameplay is quite novel. It is packed full of ear-bleeding sound, but for what we played, it is quite enjoyable. Now, back when I first played this game, I wasn't that interested in unlocking everything. I didn't even know that there were extra costumes or completely different difficulty for all that matter. So seeing these in the achievements, I was excited at the prospect of having more stuff to do in Drill Dozer. This was the reason why I chose this game to master. I didn't expect, though, that the majority of the achievements are through the extra hidden content. To potentially speed up completion of Drill Dozer, I figured since the majority of the achievements are collecting all the treasures in hard mode, why not just go through hard mode and collect all the treasures there? It makes sense, right? If only I hadn't spent all my chips on other content first. So I end up replaying levels multiple times to collect just enough bits to get the megabits and unlock the achievement attached to it. I completely forgot this was here, so nice. And then from here, I then proceed to the training course to unlock everything with the passwords. And the passwords, mind you, are very cryptic. I don't know where you would find them, as playing through the game, I didn't see anything that remotely looked like a password. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm just going to use the passwords that are online and put those in to unlock these things. With an initial password here, lots of moving numbers around there. We unlock all of the outfits to unlock an achievement. Nice. And we unlock hard mode, which is another achievement. Nice. Now, time to enter hard mode. Hard mode. Hard mode. Alright. When it comes to increasing difficulty in a game, there are 3 primary changes a game developer has at their disposal. Changing the level, changing the enemies, or changing the protagonist. It can be a combination of the 3 or all of one of these points. But in regards to difficulty, one of these has to change. The most difficult of the 3 is changing the level. The original progression of the level is altered so that going the known routes will no longer work. This would require players to think differently on how to solve a problem or how to progress. These types of changes can range from moving items around, think of your randomizer mods for old games, or by altering how a puzzle would be solved. Think of the advanced chambers in Portal. These are the exact same levels, they just changed a lot around, making them inherently more difficult. The second, and probably the most common difficulty change, is by altering the enemies. The vast majority of enemies in games have one primary function, and that is to inhibit progress of the player, either by blocking them, hitting them harder, or acting as a damage sponge. For a classic example, think of Super Mario Bros. The standard enemies in this game are Goombas, and throughout the entire first playthrough, however, after defeating Bowser, these Goombas are replaced with the Hard Hats, these little tiny guys that you cannot squish. The last method, and probably the most frustrating, is changing the player, and this is through altering the stats, the abilities, or the hitboxes. These changes make progress more difficult because the familiarity of the character is altered, making your replay vastly different. Characters might not jump as high, or they might be more floaty, or in the case of Drill Dozer, removing the security net of making mistakes. These are your one-hit KO runs, perfectly timed memorization of button combo runs. If there's a chance to mess up, congrats. You lose. You must always be perfect. And what we've witnessed from playing through normal mode, Drill Dozer has some jank in the mechanics. And this means playing hard mode and unlocking all the achievements is going to be a massive pain. I am not looking forward to this, so let's just dive in hard mode and see how things go. Thankfully, as we progress through the game, Gamefreak did pass us a bone for hard mode. The cost for retrying from death has been significantly reduced to just 10 bits, when originally it was 50. And you effectively start at the beginning of each section of a stage, which means as long as you have enough perseverance and you can get to the next section of a level, you can slowly progress through the stages and beat it. And this would be fine if, as we mentioned earlier, Gamefreak didn't implement that variance. What ends up happening is you'll run into an area, and then through RNG, you die, and you're trying to figure out why. But then when you go back in, because the RNG has changed, you actually beat the stage. And at some point, you're going to be replaying the same section over and over, hoping for better RNG. And that's just not fun. But I digress. We continue with the story. Everything is beat for beat, even though we're in hard mode. All of the character interactions, all of the conversations, none of it is skippable. So we have to just play it as if we were playing the game the first time through, but with no life this time. And going through the first 3 stages, going through the hideout, going through the museum, and going through the ruins. They are difficult, but it's not undoable. For instance, it took a little bit of tries to defeat Carrie the first time, because being that you have one hit, you have to make sure that you avoid all of the enemies that just magically start showing up once you get to the second part of her fight. Surprise! You lost the health because I was too far to the left or right of the fight. And the water mechanics were a bit annoying as well in the third stage because, again, you're constantly sinking, and if you have spikes or something below you and you don't drill at the right time, hey, you just lost. You need to start over. So they were agitating, but they're not that difficult. And then we enter the city, particularly the second section of the city, the train. That pain in the ass gauntlet. This train was put here for the sole purpose of tormenting anyone who wants to beat hard mode. Not only is this the longest stage in the game, with 3 entire pieces that you have to go through, this train is one full non-stop gauntlet with no breaks in it. And I tried and tried and tried. I had 1,000 bits. I went down to 700 bits, and I just could not beat this. And the RNG was just, sometimes I would be perfectly fine because the enemies would be coming in the right direction, so I could easily avoid them in the signs, and then other times the enemies just kind of show up out of nowhere, resulting in me either getting hit by them or having to jump and get hit by sides. It was so infuriating that I gave up here. I know that we were trying to master Drill Dozer, but this section alone, I would be happy with just achieving as much as possible. So with that in mind, after spending so many hours going through hard mode and just being done with one-hit mode, I figured the best thing I can do is just maximize the amount of achievements that I can get. When we look at it, I'm at a roughly 40%. I can go collect the rest of them in normal mode, and I'll just be happy with that. And I feel like I'm not the only one who feels this way. If you look through the achievement list, there are 3,500 other players who kind of felt the same way. So maybe in the future, I'll come back and try and complete it, but for now, let's just do what we can. So hopping back into normal mode, I proceed to go through and start collecting all the treasure. Having replayed these stages enough times and through hard mode, a lot of the treasure collecting becomes relatively trivial. In fact, if hard mode just allowed me to have maybe 1 or 2 mistakes, I would be able to just blaze on through. Suddenly, having 6 gauges of health? No, don't need that. But yeah, I start playing through. As I collect all the treasures and collect as many chips as possible, I am able to start unlocking more of the achievements. We are able to unlock the full health achievement. Nice. We're able to buy all the secret maps. Another achievement unlocked. And we proceed to go through each of these secret stages. These stages are very difficult, but quite doable. The Ruin stage, you have to play that 3 times. Granted, each section is not that long, but boy, did they have fun making these gauntlets. Shout out to having to avoid the giant rock at the beginning and then proceed to jump and dodge everywhere. Use the bouncy blocks all the way through to get to the end. That was a difficult in itself. The same thing goes through as it comes to the city, just more difficulty, but not that bad. And then we get to the prison. Oh, the prison. Apparently, Gamefreak loves to hate its fans because this prison stage, I think it's worse than hard mode. In fact, this stage alone has me sweating thinking about having to do this in hard mode. Because you have to play through this stage twice to unlock each treasure. The first time I went through, I had to use the enemies to bounce off of them. You attack an enemy, and then he'll bounce you. So you have to patiently wait for the enemies to line themselves up, and then they will launch you to the next area. And then you hop through, and then you launch yourself again. And then once you're there, you have to launch yourself and make sure you're drilling at the right times not to fall. You can't launch yourself on the drill grabbers because otherwise you'll fall to your death. You have to actually fall at the top. So after going through this agitating gauntlet, we then find ourselves into the next section, which is full of a ton of the drill tunnels. You then have to do clockwise drilling, counterclockwise drilling. It's not too tedious with health, but if you had no health, you would be dying constantly because there are no safety nets anywhere. If you fall into the spikes, you fall into the spikes. So you just keep navigating through this very agitating setup until you eventually reach the next area where you have to fight, I kid you not, an enemy rush with the homing weapon and 3 gooey launchers. This is so unfair. The gooey launchers prevent you from attacking, and the enemy homes on you, constantly launching attacks. If you get gooeyed, you can't attack. And he's constantly attacking you from the left, from the right. If he decides to start attacking you from the sides, you have to start jumping to avoid, or in my case, getting hit. And it's just with 6 bars of health. He killed me the first time because it is just so ludicrous with the amount of crap you have to deal with to try and defeat him. There is a reason why it says difficult next to the hard mode difficulty achievement. And no. The second time I went through, it was even worse, because now I have to play dodge lasers. After going through many gauntlets, we then reach a point where we have to start avoiding so many lasers. So many lasers. If the laser hits you, all of the blocks disappear, and you fall to your doom. That was so agitating, because Jill is just wide enough that a single block will not block it, so you have to constantly be looking for these 2-block areas to protect yourself. But at the same time, you have to have very perfect platform jumping so that you don't just fall to your death. For some reason, when Jill lands, if you still have forward momentum, she will bounce a bit. So you have to constantly counter your forward momentum or you'll fall to your death. And she'll just keep falling and falling. And then you'll get hit by a laser, and then another laser, and then you'll fall, and then another laser. I spent 2.5 hours going through this one section alone, edging ever so closer to get to the end. And then once I finally made it to the final section, I had even more lasers to dodge and a ludicrous, you have to activate the lasers, go as fast as you can to get through a barrier. You have milliseconds to get through, and then you still have to go through more lasers. You still have to dodge bloody lasers. Eventually, I did collect it. I managed to unlock all of the treasures. I didn't get an achievement, which is, wow, where's, okay. What's the achievement say? Collect all the treasures and then unlock gear mode. Let's head to the training course, put in the passwords again, and let's get ourselves gear mode. And the achievement is unlocked. Nice. And I think that's good. I think I'm done with this. I think 50% unlock is perfect. As I mentioned, I might come back to do 100%. I know that there are some people out there who love this. Power to you. I applaud all of those on RetroAchievements who mastered the game. You have a lot more willpower than I do, but I don't want to put in the next 10, 12 plus hours trying to pixel perfect myself to a victory. I would rather go play another game. So where does Drill Dozer stand? Drill Dozer is a great game. It has a lot of flaws, but it did deserve a sequel. The characters are fun. The story is fun. The mechanics are quite quirky, and when they work, they work. When they don't, they really don't. But ultimately, it is a game worth playing. In regards to the achievements, it is definitely worth playing through and beating it, and seeing just how far you're willing to go in order to unlock the achievements. For me, 50% seemed like the great mark. For you, you might be happy with 26. For others, mastering that and proving how much of a game master you are, power to you. I kind of wish that Gamefreak would go back to Drill Dozer, given that it's been 20 years, and giving the game another shot. I know that with Pokemon being their cash cow, they really don't have to push too hard to innovate or try new things. And I kind of wish that they would go try new things. I do know that Gamefreak had announced a new game, a new IP, but I haven't heard anything recently from them about that. So until then, I guess we'll just have to enjoy Gamefreak's attempt at trying a different genre. It was fun going through this game, playing through the achievements, trying to unlock everything. I know it's a shame that I ended up giving up, but sometimes you have to learn when to cut costs, and I feel like I put in the time, and I'm happy with where things ended. But until then, thanks for hanging out, thanks for making it to the end of the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoy this, and have a good one. Laters.